Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Peter Pittendry, and today we have a very special guest, and I had a great time chatting to him about his career and lifelong passion. Russell McLaughlin is a wildlife filmmaker for Nat Geo Wild, Disney Nature, the BBC, and Netflix, and you can follow him on Instagram at Russ_wildlife. I had a pleasure of reconnecting with an old school friend and hearing more about his adventures and passion for the wildlife that he captures. Please welcome my friend Russell. Alrighty, so today we're chatting to Russell McLaughlin, or Russ_wildlife. If you want to follow him on Instagram, he's got a ton of awesome content. Russ, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself to the guys and girls listening, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
How's it going? As Peter mentioned, if you see my stuff, it's all pretty much wildlife related. Currently, I'm actually on Pinde Game Reserve. I was just looking at a nyala walk past my room now, down in Zululand, doing a new National Geographic series, Predators. So I've been down here for a little while. It's been pretty magical, but it's coming to an end. So I've got probably about, well, it's not coming to an end, it's coming to an end on this little stint. So I've got about 80 days left of field time here. But I head through to the Sabi Sands next week, where we've been busy with another project with Netflix.
Nice.
So straight after this, I actually start off on I've got a Zoom call with Netflix straight after this call. But yeah, as
two very big differences in
Peter,
Zoom calls there, Russ. An old school friend that you haven't seen in 15 years, and then Zoom. I mean Netflix. So I'm honored that that you've agreed to chat to me, and yeah, I'm really stoked. I think just briefly from my side, Russ. I mean, I haven't seen you in I think 15 years. I've got a photograph that you tagged in 2007 on of us. It was actually the first photograph I have on Facebook, so it wasn't hard to find. But it's us sitting in the back of your dad's Land Cruiser on the way to go fishing on whose houseboat was it?
It was my dad's.
Oh, it was your dad's houseboat. I can't
and then
believe...
it was out in and then it was out in Let's tell you on a friend of his farm.
Right. I hope he doesn't listen to this, because I want to kind of
long time
a long time ago. But we nearly sank the thing 4 or 5 times trying to drive it. I don't know who was in charge. You were probably in charge, but you had to keep a handful of teenagers busy with far too much alcohol and far too much fishing bait and tackle and hunting some. I think we hooked into something massive. I can't remember. It must have been a barbel, and I think Scott Atherston was fighting the thing. And we were all so excited. We all moved to the one side of the houseboat and nearly tipped the thing over.
I don't know how we survived that day out on the boat. It was pretty manic. But yeah, that was definitely one of my fondest memories growing up as a kid. Was that particular trip with you guys?
Yeah,
and definitely almost a lifetime ago. Yeah, it feels like.
And we were so lucky and fortunate to have those kinds of experiences growing up. But I've obviously we've not been in touch for a fairly long time. But the earliest kind of memory that I have of you after we met was I think seeing you on Instagram with your head in a hippo, and someone taking a photograph of that. And then I kind of realized, okay, wildlife and photography, that's what you're doing. But I mean, take us through how you got into your early career as a wildlife filmmaker.
I always dreamt of getting in down this line of work, but then it definitely was a lot of pursuing and asking people, like a lot of working for free and begging and pleading just to get opportunities, especially in the wildlife filming side of things. I had a few little breaks here and there, but then what I started doing is I started writing up my own stories and pitching my own films to various networks and stuff. And one of the very first ones I ever wrote got picked up, and pretty much history from there. I've worked with some of the biggest networks and names in the industry. if you see much of Disney, I've worked with Disney. I've been working with Warner Brothers, National Geographic, Netflix, Apple. So it's all the big ones out there at the moment currently. Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing a lot of my own films. I've got my own film busy being shot in the Kruger National Park in the Eastern Boundary. My brother's actually out in the field on that, filming that for me. I'm out here. I travel a lot, so I've seen the world several times, over and over. I'm kind of happy to be back home. I won't lie.
Sure.
Especially here in South Africa. After I spent 2 years in India making a film on a Black Panther, and it was the first time in history a Black Panther's ever been filmed in the wild.
Wow.
And we spent 2 years following one. It was almost an impossible task, but we ended up making a film on it, a feature film for National Geographic. And then after that, I had a big meeting with Nat Geo, and they said, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, "All I want to do is make a film closer to home." So yeah, I got a film in the Kruger off, and I've been pretty happy. I'm quite content with it. But I've only taken on one other project that's going to be outside of South Africa in this year,
Mm-hmm.
which will be in Zambia for Planet Earth 3, which is quite a big one. But I didn't want to say no to that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been definitely a roller coaster ride of being all over the place. Being gone from 48 degrees Celsius to minus 48 in 48 hours. And I can tell you, it's when you start doing those kind of travels, it's not pleasant on you.
Yeah, I suppose your body takes a beating. I mean,
Oh
I've
yeah.
been fortunate enough to travel, nothing to your extent, but I know that I've often sort of lived life by a shoestring, especially when I travel. So it's always on a budget, and those long bus rides through Southeast Asia get fairly uncomfortable, and your body's beaten up. After a 2 or 3 week trek. And I can't imagine doing that my whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, I suppose you kind of, hindsight's always 2020, and for you, Russ, I mean, you're obviously very passionate about wildlife. I mean, that's evident when we were growing up together. I mean, I don't know how I mean, I know why we were friends, but I don't know why you stuck up with me for that long, because I was always terrified of snakes. I never liked touching frogs or scorpions or anything like that. And you were always putting scorpions down my back, and like sticking your finger down a frog's mouth and then putting it in your brown house snake's cage. And then the brown house snake would like lob onto the frog while your finger was in it. I mean, I, I can't, yeah. So you've always been sort of very, very interested in wildlife, and sort of made that your passion. What kind of advice would you give people just starting off in the film career now, or and trying to get into wildlife photography?
I think first of all, you got to be really passionate about working with wildlife and being around wildlife. I wouldn't. I think that is probably the most important thing you could ever want to do or be, because if you're not, you realize you're out in the field for many hours, long days, months on end, and if you can't handle it, then it's not the right place for you.
Sure.
And then second is filmmaking can be pretty intense. You can't just go into the field with a camera. I mean, you go into the field, you got to know how you're going to execute your shots when they're happening. And animal behavior would be probably the most second important thing to understand and anticipate what you're going to be capturing next. From there, I would say animal behavior, and then definitely, being able to handle various forms of conditions. Like I've been, when I'm here, I'm staying in the beautiful forest lodge here at Pinda, but I've been in places where, especially like 5-star accommodation where you look up at night and there's like you see the five stars through the roof, the hole in the roof of your house.
Nice.
Tin shacks to tents to all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. Yeah, this is really nice, but it's not always like this.
Sure.
It's definitely one of those things you get, traveling is, it can drive you mad when you're going from one place to the next. Last year I was up in the high Arctic doing a series, and we were going from one location to the next. It was so intense. So we mapped all our way through like Scandinavia and then up into the Arctic and then back down. And it was literally like one night per location, and you're constantly on the road. It catches up on you. Like it puts a beating on you. And like I said, after that, I'm not going to do any more of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm getting too old for this. You can see the gray hairs in my beard already. It's definitely one of those things now.
I still
So
don't get it.
yeah,
I mean, we're the same age. I still can't grow a bloody beard, and it's one of my biggest desires. But having grown up in Limpopo, I see all my mates online and on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot with like these full-on beards, and I mean, this is about 4 months growth, and you can hardly see it. I don't know what's happening. I definitely didn't get sort of those genes, but yeah. And how do you balance your kind of work and personal life? I mean, you don't obviously have to share too much about your personal life, but you spoke about traveling and being close to home now. That's obviously going to make things a lot easier. But starting up in your career, was that a worry for you, or were you more focused on, I've got a goal, I've got to do my, I've got to really grind for the next 10, 15 years and then start focusing on personal life, or was it a sort of a
I
combination
think
of the two?
I think my problem is I love being out in the field too much. So I've it's just my sheer love for this. Every day for me is like a holiday, but I can happily not go to work another day for the rest of the year and still be working. Just because I've got a bunch of freelancers that work for me out in the field, and guys that because it's all production based, with what we do. So I can happily stay at home and sort out all the projects just from my computer and my phone.
Sure.
But my problem is I have to be out in the field, and I need to be out in the field. I love it way too much. So yeah, so the missus is back home. She's with her cat. I'm out in the field, but yeah, we do work together.
Okay.
It happens. But this year she's been taking a bit of a break. She's actually been focusing a lot with stuff that she's been doing with National Geographic, and as a female in the industry, as a woman in the industry, she's been going around the US doing big speaking tours on for National Geographic and the film we made in India. And also as a woman out in the field, doing this crazy living this crazy lifestyle. Like I said, like, it's not luxury, it's not if you can handle that kind of stuff, it's definitely something one should look at. But like I said, there's a whole lot of factors that you gotta have to apply just for that. Yeah, so I mean, it does balance itself out. I think I hope so. Yeah, I need to ask her that question at some point and see if it really does balance itself out.
Right. Well, be sure to let me know the answer.
Or
I'd be interested.
or she just likes me out the house all the time. So yeah, but I would say like here in South Africa, the level 5 lockdown was the longest I've been at home in 5 years. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I spoke to a guide in the Western Cape, and he does during his summer breaks. He'll work in the Western Cape and he'll guide and do climbing on Table Mountain. Then he'll spend winter in Bulgaria and he'll do climbing and alpine adventures in the winter months there. And he says it's the first time in 5 years that he's actually had a holiday. So I think a lot of people will be saying that for the next couple of months. So it's maybe not a bad thing. You know, I know there's a lot of sort of devastation and the economy's taken a massive hit, and especially in the tourism industry, I think a lot of companies have felt the pinch. But I mean, it's the one thing that's come out of this is you know, I can sit every morning and spend time on a safari, a wilderness safari, and with the equipment that you guys have and the sort of tech that you guys have, you know, get very up close and personal with animals that, you know, you take for granted when you can't actually do that. So the one positive coming out of all of this, I think, is the wildlife sort of filmmakers will release a lot more content, I think, and the game rangers are releasing a lot more content that the average person can just sit and enjoy in the comfort of their home. So that's been special to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been quite something. I mean, we've been out in the field for quite a while now, and yeah, there's I won't lie, it's when we're looking at some of the stuff that we're doing. We actually just got a new BBC series that we're going to be starting pretty soon, but it's also very interesting. It's about how animals have adapted under this, you know, lockdown
Oh,
and
really?
how they're behaving. Yeah, so it's going to be quite an interesting series to watch. Hopefully they behave themselves, but and let us capture what we want to capture.
Sure.
But it's it yeah it is I do feel like there is a lot more content that's been coming out at the moment. We've got to be very careful. Like, I mean, with the networks that we work with, we can't
Mm.
really say or you know, show anything that we've been up to until the
Yeah,
film actually comes out. And some of these films takes like 3 to 5 years before they even come out. So
it's crazy.
it's one of these crazy things that we just gotta sit back and you know, wait it out. I think the last film that I did, you know, when I started on it until when it got released, came out this year. I think it was like 7 years from, you know, when we
Wow.
started to when it came out. Yeah, so it's a long time.
And being behind the camera, are there often shots of you as well, so you can sort of see what you looked like 7 years ago and how the beard's progressed in that time?
So I don't know if any of you guys have Disney, you know, the new Disney Plus online platform. There's a
Hmm.
film called Elephant on it. Meghan Markle, Prince Harry's wife,
Hmm.
narrates the film,
Oh, lovely.
and it's just a film that we did in Zimbabwe and Botswana. Beautiful story on elephants. Real Disney story, but it's really stunning.
Mm.
But if you watch that, there's another film that follows on that called In the Footsteps of Elephants, and it's about us who made the film.
Oh,
So you
nice.
can watch us making the film over that duration,
Oh, wow.
and so you'll see what it looks like out in the field whilst we're working on it. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, it's I haven't seen it yet, so yeah.
Is it being released on Disney's platform as well, or somewhere
Yeah,
else?
it's on the platform now.
Oh, fantastic. All right. I don't have
Yeah,
kids yet, so I haven't felt the need to get a Disney platform, just sort of subscribe to the platform, but I definitely will now. I mean, I can uh, engage with some
yeah,
content there. But yeah, that's amazing, dude. And I think, you know, there's always a plus to being in such a sort of popular and entertaining industry, but it comes with its drawbacks, I think, as one, and one that I mean, it really struck a chord with me, and seeing the devastation that you know, I mean, we are. I think it's not a secret that the human race is, I mean, one of the most devastating creatures that's ever been on this planet, and I saw a short little clip of you. I wasn't. I'm not sure where it was. Maybe Kenya, with all those elephant tusks that were burning. And you know, that image is, I don't know when that was, maybe 3 years, 4 years ago, but that image is always sort of stuck in my head. And you know, I mean, I'm not very active in your industry, but you know, as someone that's very passionate about animals and cares deeply for animals, it's not the same, but I have two poodles that I travel everywhere with, and when we always go to the game farms together, we take them on game drives, and if anyone will allow us. And you know, you really, I mean, that didn't sit well with me. I mean, can you speak a little bit about that and just put context behind that? And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. So that was, I'm just trying to think, it was about 4 years ago. So Kenya did, they decided to burn all their stockpiles of ivory, and obviously, you know, with ivory on the market, it fuels the trade and so on and so on. So they thought it would be a good idea that they have, you know, one of the biggest stockpiles in the world of ivory, that they're just going to burn it all and say no to any form of trade.
Jeez.
Um, so it was kind of their, you know, I'd say about 80% of those were all elephants that died of natural death, and the rest
Okay,
were poached,
I see.
um, confiscated. So in that case, you know, it's what they pick up and what they've gathered and what they've stockpiled over the years.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, like I said, like I'd say 80, if not more, natural deaths opposed to poaching incidents.
Okay.
But the sad reality is, you know, poached elephants, ivory, still getting out and into the markets, and that was just a huge statement that the Kenyan government made to the world, that they want nothing to do with it, and
Mm.
they don't want to fuel anything by eradicating everything they had,
Yeah.
and showcasing it at that level. But it was quite a thing. It was very strange, being out there and documenting that whole thing, because at the time I was making a film in Kenya, all based on conservation work. And I think pretty much since then, that's the last one that I've done that's been based on sheer conservation, because it's just
Okay.
such a sad industry to follow, because you realize how, you know, terrible people are out there in the world, and how greed just overcomes everything.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal. It's a sad reality of the game, and the animals always end up losing out on it.
Mm.
Uh, you know, you see what's happening with the rhinos. I must say, I personally would say now, during the lockdown and with the roads and the ports all being monitored, and because of the pandemic, I think rhinos are getting a bit of a fighting chance now. I think
Oh,
the
really?
rhino poaching stats have dropped a bit. Um, Not saying that it won't spike again, but
Mm.
it definitely has subsided quite a bit, just because of uh, you know, every port's being monitored now. You know, everything is getting screened. Everything is, you know, it's even just driving in between the provinces, you'll pick it up. You stop at the road checks and roadblocks and all of that, and get out, and they check the vehicle. So it's definitely, it's good for them.
Mm.
Um, but but then what's also happening, you know, in this situation, is the bushmeat poaching is definitely on the rise, just because the lack of work and all of that. So it's just this knock-on effect. But hopefully the rhinos do make you know, breed a little bit more, have a few more babies
Yeah.
in this time. But yeah, I kind of, after that, I just decided I'm gonna just solely focus all my work on natural history and wildlife itself, and the beauty of wildlife, instead of showcasing, you know, how terrible this world is, and how
Sure.
brutal it is, and how, you know, the animal species are just suffering left, right, and center from it. But yeah, like I said, I'd rather showcase the beauty than that.
And that side of.
But it's one of the things. Yeah, it's one of those things that it will always happen in front of you. I mean, I can't even tell you how many poached rhinos I've come across in the
Oh,
field over the
really?
years. Yeah, it's just one of those things. You're not going to avoid it.
Mm.
You're never going to avoid it, and it's a sad reality of being in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually going to ask you, on some of your shoots, have you ever come across or had any close calls with poachers? Uh, we stay, well, my folks stay close to, you're in Zululand now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they have a small holding in the Shushliam one in what is that area called in Manyoni, close to it's right as you go.
I'm next door. Yeah, I'm next door to Manyoni.
Oh, okay. So
So it's
that
Mkuzi, Shishlui, and then Manyoni's in between there.
okay. So
Yeah.
in that rhino
I just
reserve,
know where the pub
mm.
is. I just know where the pub is.
Yeah, I
The
think
Bear Bear
whenever
pub.
yes, yeah, they do sushi.
I know, it's crazy.
It's bizarre, but yeah, I mean, we'd I think we had a python in one of our ponds, and it was attacking. I don't know if that's the correct term, python attacking, but it was attacking our geese, and we only shamed. I mean, that area is renowned for its snakes. I mean, I think they have some of the most deadly snakes in Africa are found in concentration in that area. I could be wrong. This is what my grandfather told me growing up, but we've had plenty of geese and chickens and over the years, but they don't last long in that place. So we had two geese left, and they'd made it. I mean, they'd been on the farm for ages. We called them Bucket and Spade, and Bucket was taken by a wild dog, and Spade was on his, he was in his pond quite happily, and he a python got him, and my old man shot, unfortunately shot the python, and or shot at the, I don't know, a warning shot or something along those lines. And within about half an hour, there were helicopters flying around on the farm. And so I know
Jeez.
they actively monitor poaching in the areas,
Yeah,
and if you are going to be
yeah,
doing any shooting on your farm, you phone out ahead and let them know. But
yeah.
have you been through kind of any close calls with poachers, or had anything kind of
Yeah, we've had an incident where we've been shot at out in the field.
really?
A few holes in the car door,
Jeez.
like not pleasant.
No.
But other than that, they definitely it was just one of those situations. But other than that, you you don't really. I mean, you avoid it. Like if you hear gunshots, you don't go investigate yourself. You rather just call it in.
Mm.
Years and years ago, I did a lot of investigative documentary filmmaking, and where we got into the rhino poaching syndicates in Mozambique, and I can tell you that wasn't fun work to be a part of and to do, because it was the first time it was done, and it also I I decided after that I'm not going to pursue this kind of career because it will probably lead to a shallow grave somewhere out there,
Jeez. Yeah.
and it's not fun. I mean, first few days of being on that project, I was held at gunpoint by
Really.
one of the syndicate guys, but they ended up getting my story after that, and it it's yeah, it's pretty crazy, but it's also something that you just don't. Some people get a kick out of it.
Mm.
I thought it was crazy and cool at the time, but then reality kicked in, and it's not. This world can be an evil place if you want it to be. If you go looking
Yeah.
for it as well. So it's one of those things. I
Sure.
don't recommend it.
No. I mean,
Rather enjoy the pretty animals and stuff.
that's it. Jeez. And speaking about the pretty animals and the projects that you enjoy, you know, I, I I don't know if you can. I mean, you've had a long career in this industry, but is there any one kind of experience that really sticks out as the memorable experience for you?
Hmm. I'd say the entire project I did in India with the black leopard. I mean, that forest that I was based in is one of the most surreal places I've ever been to on earth. It was just absolutely magical. Being up in the North Pole, I love it up there. I've been up there several times, and it's just something about being out in the most remote part of the world where there's just, there's not another human being in any, vicinity of you for miles and miles. There's something about that. Yeah, for me, it's a toss up between the two. Africa will always be home, and I'll always come back to it. And when I'm not sure, I miss it a lot. But there's something about being up there, up in the high Arctic. I just love it. But then also where I was living in India, in the forest I was based out of, there was just something about that forest that just has got me. Like
Right.
I could
Explain it,
spend
but
years and years and years. Yeah, it's the sounds, it's the smell, it's everything. It's the forest. If I could spend years and years in a forest, I'd happily do it in that forest.
right. And eh, I mean, what is it like? Because I've listened to a lot of wildlife podcasts, and I really enjoy Meat Eater, Stephen Ranella. I don't know if you've listened to that before, but they speak a lot about their. I mean, it's a different part of the industry. They speak a lot about hunting and wildlife conservation, and it's obviously in the States, so which is very different from. I mean, you need to start something where you speak about your experiences in the bush, because I think it's missing. It's such important content that you look for, but you can't really find. I mean, and I'm hoping during this lockdown that becomes more prevalent, that people actually start experiencing the. I know the animals are great, and I mean beautiful, and it really resonates with you, but the stories behind the people and the projects are somewhat what I relate to, is why
Yeah.
why you're in that area, what the projects for, the passion and the understanding behind the projects, and kind of the behind the scenes look and feel of it all. But
Yeah, I mean every project we do is got a whole different narrative, so it all
mm, mm,
depends on the narrative of the storytelling that we're doing. I mean,
sure.
so whether we doing a story on elephants, or we're doing a story on elephants that are surviving off a certain tree or something like that. It all varies.
Mm,
Uh, so yeah, lately, like a lot of the stories that I've been doing are pretty similar, but just with a slightly different narrative to each one.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I think if there is a day with something like that happens, I'll probably need like to spend a week just speaking about it,
Right.
because I could go on for days about stuff like that,
Sure.
especially with subjects that I've been working with.
Absolutely. And what's it like working with family? I mean, I know your brother's also in the industry, Kevin. Is Murray in the industry, or does he work with you
No,
as
no,
well?
no. Murray's not.
Hmm.
Murray's not. Kev is. I actually don't see him. I just let him do his own thing.
Right.
He's yeah. I get updates from him every now and then. I know that he can handle what I'm after, and he knows what I'm after. So very capable, to put it that way.
Sure.
I know if I send him somewhere, I know I'm going to get some magic.
Fantastic. And um, I don't know if you've been asked this before, and it's. Have you watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yeah,
So when Ben Stiller's character is hiking up into the mountains to look for the wildlife photographer, and I think he's filming the snow leopard, and he gets it in
yeah,
frame, and he doesn't hit the record, and says, just some things are better left unfilmed or uncaptured. Um, does that resonate at all with you? I mean, having spent so much time behind the camera and actually filming so much documentary, are there any specific moments like that stick
it
out for
happens.
you?
Oh, not specific. It happens all the time.
Oh, really?
Sometimes something's just unfolding in front of you, and you just sit there and just take it all in.
Mm,
For example, yesterday I had a lovely moment where some lions and rhinos were having a bit of a go at each other, and we just sat there and just took it all in. It's it's part of it. Some people will try and capture all of it. Some people just enjoy the moments, and I think I think in my younger days, I definitely would be trying to capture it all.
Mm,
But I do find I spend a lot more time just enjoying it now, and
yeah.
sitting back and just observing the whole thing.
Mm.
Yeah, so
And the,
it's definitely changed.
sure. And there's a lot of I remember my sister was in the Kruger, and she was with a whole bunch of friends in this tiny little car, and there was some impala running over the road, and it was evident that there was a cheetah chase, and so they pulled out their phone, and you can hear the girls screaming in the background. They were still students in Pretoria, and one of the impala, uh, something happened. The cheetah sort of chased it across the road, and then it turned around, and it ran back at one of the vehicles in front, and somehow ended up in the car. I don't know if it was through the sunroof or through the door, and the people had their door open or whatever. But Sam got it all on film and put it on YouTube, and I mean millions of people viewed it, and it was quite like
Mm.
a surreal experience captured from a non-filmmaker. Do those kinds of things happen
Yeah.
to you?
No, I mean, things always surprise us out there, but I think a lot of the stuff is you're following an animal for so long, and you start to anticipate what's going to happen next.
Mm,
You also learn this, you learn the animals that you're with. Like this morning, we were following the lions, and there's a herd of buffalo ahead of them, but we knew that they were not going to attempt to hunt the buffalo because this particular pride of lions they never hunt buffalo. So
ah,
um, yeah, if it was a different pride of lions, we would have gone and set up just for that moment for the lions to hunt the buffalo. But with this particular pride of lions, it wasn't worth rushing all the way there to get them to come in and potentially hunt the buffalo because we knew it wasn't going to happen.
sure.
So these things do happen.
Hmm.
But you do, especially when you start to know your subject, you do know what to expect and when to follow. And I mean, there's been some crazy times where you've been out there and something happens that you just like, oh wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like what your sister probably witnessed in the Kruger, it definitely would have been a moment where um, that a bunch of tourists all out there, and then something crazy happens like that. I think it could blow your mind a little bit, especially that the fact that the Impala jumped into the car. I'm sure it was by accident,
Sure.
but just to get away from some cheetah.
Mm. Yeah, there was I think a film company picked it up, and it was terrible. It was a UK lady like narrating the whole thing, and she's like, and the Impala fled for its life, knowing there was an open vehicle close by, and jumped straight through. And you're just sitting there, you're like, oh, woman. Oh, it's fantastic.
No, I can tell you. But I've heard of stories where like animals have jumped into guides' vehicles on safari just to get away from the wild dogs and things like that.
Oh, really?
So it does happen. But I think that was an accidental. Didn't plan that one. I think
No.
it definitely didn't plan that one. Um, yeah,
And
yeah, but it's yeah. Carry on.
no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just I sometimes like to break the segments up with this ridiculous giraffe. His name's Ozzy. I learned
Yeah.
very early on. I don't know anything about giraffes apart from their horns are called ossicones. So is that right? I could be wrong. I just
Yeah, and is that a male or female?
I have no idea, Russ. You tell me. I I mean, apart from
No,
let's call him a male. There's nothing there, but he fishes. So, but I I have a segment. I hate mosquitoes, and I've had some horrific experiences fishing on Middle Letaba or fishing on Kariba, and the mozzies get into you, and you just can't do anything, and it drives me absolutely crazy. So I've got a segment called Aussies Mozzies, and you've obviously been in the field and had your fair share of encounters with mosquitoes, but anything that sticks out that's really kind of irritated you, or is it just a general irritation?
Oh, my absolute hate is shucks, I would say centipedes. Centipedes, that's my phobia. Like I can't handle them.
Or just because they get in
That's it.
everywhere and
I
they're
know, I just
horrible.
I don't like them.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, fair enough. So, what's kind of on the cards for the next couple of weeks? I know you said that you're heading back home. You're kind of resetting. You've got a project in the Kruger.
Yeah, I'll be home for 2 days, and then I'll be back out on a Netflix story. That's the guys I've got a call with in a couple minutes.
Right. Okay.
Um, so yeah, I've just because we're busy developing some more stories with Netflix, but yeah, currently we're busy out in the Sabi Sands, the beautiful part of the world.
Wonderful.
Leopards everywhere. I always say when you're out there, you kick a tree and a leopard falls out of it, just because there's so many. But yeah, it definitely is a place that I thoroughly enjoy filming in, and it's
Mm,
a place close to home.
mm.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited to be back out there.
Yeah, shame. I absolutely love seeing leopards in the wild, but my favorite little Jack Russell got clapped by a leopard in close to Mignoni on our farm. We were out for the day, and he jumped up onto the couch, and we normally lock them inside so they can't get out. But he jumped up onto the couch and then legged it out the window, and he was out running around in front of the house. And we have a trail cam, and we saw an old leopard come in front of the. It's enclosed, but they obviously come over the fence. And I'll send you some
Yeah,
photos. You could see the leopard she was on her last legs, and obviously went for a dog
yeah,
for some reason. But also I have a love-hate
that's
relationship.
sad.
He was my favorite little Jack Russell, and he got clapped by a leopard. But you don't actually, you see a dog, and then you kind of run along. We go running in the mountains here in Cape Town with our dogs quite a bit, and they outrun us
Yeah.
like nothing. And then you see a leopard actually attack a dog, and you realize that they're apex predators, and they
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's yeah, but I really appreciate you doing this, man. It's so surreal catching up with you again, and
Anytime. Yeah, we can definitely do it again sometime.
I'd love that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, whenever you got some time, you just ping me and I'll let you know especially if I got good signal. That's when it counts the most.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, I mean we can do as many as you want. I can do more of a breakdown on some of the some of the films that I've done and some of the excitement that I've had on them,
Yes.
which is always interesting. I think it's quite difficult to kind of
Mm.
put it all into one thing. If I tackle one at a time, it's a lot
Sure,
easier.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to. A lot of our guests often have like questions about wildlife photography. If I'm coming to Africa, what cameras do I take? What's the easiest for just a sort of a click and shoot, and then traveling on like a 21-day experience. And often have questions about the best park. If I've got to choose between three parks, what's the best choice to make, and those kinds of things. So yeah, I'd love to hear from the.
yeah. If you get a bunch of questions like that, we can definitely fly them through,
Awesome.
and get all of that answered, and yeah, do more of these. We can definitely schedule more.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Russ. Yeah, it's a massive help during these times, and I'm sure that
Yeah,
people would love to hear more about you and your experiences. If people want to follow you on Instagram, I mean, I'm sure you have 20 odd thousand more followers than I do, but it's just Russ_wildlife. Are you okay with them kind of just following you along and following your
yeah.
journey there?
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's it. No, it's very simple, and yeah, just if there's any questions, people can just message me, and I'll try and get onto them. But yeah, we can definitely, if you get questions and answers, we can definitely do another one of these, and we can go through all of that
Awesome.
if that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put this content out, and hopefully, those of you listening, I obviously don't know half or a quarter or even a tenth of what Russel knows. So shoot me the questions, and yeah, we'll set this up again, and we can have him answer some of your questions on wildlife in Africa and other parts of the world. Russ, thanks so
Perfect.
much, man.
Yeah.
I really, really
Sounds
appreciate
good.
that. And yeah, all the best.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Good
2
catching
days
up,
back
man.
home. Yes, yeah, let's not wait 15 years before we chat again.
Yeah, I know. No, it'll be soon.
Awesome.
We'll plan it maybe when I'm at Mala Mala at the next reserve.
Oh, that would be lovely. Yeah. And if you're in Cape Town, please let me know.
Yeah.
I'll take you up the mountain. Maybe we go and do some scary climbing on the mountain or something like that. It would be cool to catch up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks, Russ. All the
All
best.
right, bud. We'll stay in touch.
Cheers now.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.
Ciao.